Here in a world where all hope seems lost, greater is He who resides in us. God, we stand unshaken.
Hey Shore, welcome to this week's sermon preview. I'm Morgan, this is Nick, and what series are we in?
Yeah, so we are in our Unshaken series,
Okay.
focusing on 1 Thessalonians.
Okay, what week are we on?
We are in week 8, which is the last week.
The last
so
one.
we are wrapping up our series this week, and you're going to be kind of looking at the conclusion of Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. So the verses or the passage that we're going to look at is 1 Thessalonians 5, verses 12 through 28. So it's 12 through the end of the chapter there. And so this is it's a really, actually kind of an interesting conclusion that Paul is making here, because it's more than just like, hey, see you later, or blessings or anything like that, but there's actually some instruction in his conclusion to the letter. And so it's interesting as we look through this passage, there's some of the shortest verses that we have in the New Testament, other than Jesus wept, but it's like pray continuously or rejoice always, just these couple of words that are just these really short commands that Paul is giving us. And at first glance, it's like, okay, Paul is being super random. Anything that he can think of, he's throwing this down as if like he's trying to delay his goodbye or something like that. But as we dig a little bit deeper into it, we kind of see a thread that gets pulled throughout all of it, and it seems like that thread is relationships, and different kinds of relationships, relationships with each other, relationships with God, different kinds of relationships. So, Morgan, as you look at this passage, what are some things that you see in it that speak to you about relationships? What kind of commands is Paul giving on relationships?
Yeah, so he's telling us to encourage one another, to help each other when we're struggling, and to be patient with each other.
Yeah, right. So those are kind of in a sequence there of commands that are specific in relationship with other people. And so there's lots of different ones in there. So I encourage you to look at this passage and read through it. It does seem a little bit maybe scattered, but as you look at it with the lens of relationships, not just relationships with each other, but also relationship with God, you may start to see what Paul was trying to get at with this. So go ahead and read that passage, but then as you're doing that, think about this idea of where have we been through the last 8 weeks in the book of 1 Thessalonians, this letter that Paul is writing to this church. I think just really like broad strokes, Paul started in the beginning of this book in the future, or in the present, like this is where you are, Thessalonians, and then he kind of moved to the future of like, but this is what you have to look forward to. And so we kind of see this movement from Paul of like the now to the then, and now in the conclusion we're coming back to the now. So just a really cool. So think about maybe what is the passage or the idea from Paul to the Thessalonians that has impacted you the most in this series. So as we wrap up our series, go back and think through what have we learned and what has impacted me the most in that. So looking forward to it. See you then.
Nothing to fear.